In today's video, I am going to be breaking down 5 easy kids offensive basketball plays that you can use with younger basketball players. These are going to be very simple plays that some will be set plays, but most of them will be motion offenses, because then you can allow your team to learn how to move off ball and to look for different cuts. Anyways, let's get down and let's check out these basketball plays. But really quickly, if you want a very simple basketball offense, make sure to go check out the complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense that is down in the links in the description below. So this first play is going to be a motion. It's going to be a 4-out motion where we've got 2 players in the corners and we've got 2 players pretty close to the slot. The slot is roughly this area right here, just the extension of that key. And then we're going to have a player in the high post on ball side. Now, he may not have to start in the high post or on ball side. He can start on the opposite elbow, or he can start in the low post. But either way, he needs to show to get himself open on ball side high post. The initial pass is going to be into player 5. When this happens, I want player 1 to make the decision. Is he going to go and set the screen away for player 2? Or is he going to set the screen away for player 4? Or is he going to cut to the rim? Because that is also an option. He doesn't cut to the rim on this side because of gap defense from player 4 would be intercepting or at least disrupting that pass. He would want to cut on the side where he passed from because the gap help is going to be confused. Let me explain. So if, for example, player 1 cuts, and that creates an advantage where player 2 red, the defender, comes down to try to cut off the drive, we can kick it out for that 3-point shot. If player 1 is open, he can get that layup. If not, because he cut, I want to see players fill in from the opposite side. He's going to continue his cut out towards that corner. So now everyone is going to fill up. Player 5 now, if he passes that ball out, let's say he passes out to player 4. He could also pass out to player 2, he could pass to player 3, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if he passes out to a player, now he gets to go and screen for that player. Let's say player 4 attacks the rim, player 5 rolls. What happens now? Well, what I want to see is player 3 and 1 filling up. And this gives the opportunity, because now player 5 is rolling, player 4 can score, or he can kick the ball over to any one of these players out on the perimeter. If he passes to player 2, player 5 continues out, player 4 now goes up to the high post, and now we're looking to pass that ball. So he could pass to player 4 or to player 3. If he passes to player 3, just like the 5-out offense, if you pass from the corner and you cut, you also fill out to that same corner. Or if you don't feel like allowing a player to be stuck in the corner the entire game, you can have him cut, and then he can set that screen at midcourt, and player 5 can then fill in that side. And then obviously he would fill out the opposite side. Basically, all we are doing, so let's say this ball gets passed over here, player 3 cuts. Because the ball is now on this side of the court, he fills out to this side, player 5 fills up, player 4 goes to the high post on ball side. If player 1 passes to the corner man, this can happen on either side. When he passes, he cuts. But player 4 could also set the back screen as well. Everyone else fills in. Player 1 fills out, and now player 4 goes back to the high post. It's a very simple offense. There's a lot of things going on. If your kids are 6 years old, this is going to be way too confusing for them. But if you're coaching like 10, 11, 12-year-olds who have had at least 6 months to a year of basketball experience running a basic offense, this isn't very hard to teach. But you also have to teach them how to move off ball. So for example, if we were to pass into player 4, let's say, for example, player 5, instead of cutting, he screened away for player 2. Well, now the whole defense is paying attention to what's happening over here. If player 1's man is now no longer looking at him and he's looking this way, well, he could cut back door. Player 4 could see him and hit him up with a pass. So we should be teaching our players how to cut back door as well, and to read defenses and to make something out of nothing. One of my favorite offenses is the 5-out, because this can teach positionless basketball. You can run post plays out of this as well. And I'll show you that right now. So pass and cut. I like to explain this as a delayed pass and cut. So for example, player 1 passes to player 4. Player 1 cuts to the rim. Normally in this sport, in this play, right away he'll fill out to the opposite side. These guys fill up. If he doesn't receive that pass back, that is. And as soon as player 1, if this was a normal pass and cut play, player 4 passes, he cuts through, these guys fill, and it's a very simple offense. But if we were to have, let's say now, player 3 make that pass, we can quickly pass over to player 2 and player 3 will cut to the rim. So we'll make that pass around, player 3 cuts. Now a delayed pass and cut is this guy cannot cut until he either gets out of the way or potentially if he gets the ball. So what I mean by that is we can now pass the ball into the low post. When he gets that ball, weak side 45 cuts, corner lifts. If player 1 is open, you hit him with a pass. I like this play because it teaches backdoor cuts. If he's open, he can score. If he's not open, he fills out to the opposite side. Now player 5 cuts. Again, teaching off-ball cuts. If he's open, you can hit him up with a pass. If not, these guys fill, and he fills out. This is a very simple offense to be able to run. Now, let's say because player 4 would be sprinting the entire way, he should be wide open, at least to receive that pass. Now, when he receives that pass, player 1 can fill up top, 5 fills up, 3 then fills out. Now we can reverse this ball around, and now player 1 cuts. Now, we could even have the pass come from the wing, but it's a lot easier to have the pass come from the corner. I'll give you that little bit of information. I've ran this play quite a few years. I ran it at the senior high school level 2, and this weak side 45 cut was always a lob dunk for us. But this is a play, a motion offense that you can run over and over and over again. Now, the Horns offense is getting more and more popular, which is great because I personally like it. One of the biggest mistakes that coaches may do in the Horns offense or lazy players is instead of running the corners, what they will do is they will run the guys in a high 1-4. If you are trying to get a high post pass in with a guy on the wing, that gap/help defense is going to be intercepting that pass. So these guys have to be in that corner. But a very super simple play. I've ran this play for almost every team I've coached. For example, years ago, back when I had David on the Burloak team, I would have him in the corner. I would have my centers here. I had multiple centers that year, my last year there. And then I had another guard here. Usually it was Andrew. And what we would do is we would have David come across the staggered screen, Iverson cut, whatever you want to call it. He would come across, and then player 2, Andrew, would then cut across to the opposite corner. When this happened, our number 1 option was always David because he was the one we were calling it for, and this should be either a 3-point shot or a drive to the basket. If he stood there for a second and called a screen, that would be player 4, and player 4 would be setting that screen. When this happens, player 5 needs to clear out. Player 1 goes into the slot. Now, with this screen and roll, we have David going middle, the roll man going and attacking the rim. This could be a mid-range. This could be a drive to the basket. This could be a pass to player 4. This could be a kick out to any one of these players. And this is either going to get your most offensively skilled player an assist, which they need to get, in my opinion, or it can get him a basket. One or the other. But this is going to get him involved in the offense for either an assist or scoring. And if you've got a player who is pretty well unstoppable at whatever age group that you're coaching, this play, if you call it for him, this is going to get him involved. And even though he is getting involved in the play, in the offense, and that he's making sure that he's touching the ball, it is also explaining to him that you need to pass and to set up plays where your star player can be playing off ball, not necessarily as a point guard, but can play off ball, gets open, learns how to move off ball, and then understands, hey, if I get cut off, I need to be able to make sure I make these passes. I need to be able to read where the defense is, and I need to be able to make that right pass. because a star player can be really good at the middle school or high school or even college level, but once they make it to the pros, if they're not going to be that dedicated scorer on the team, they have to know how to pass. They need to know how to defend and move off ball. So plays like these can teach your star players things like that. Now let's go back really quick. Let's say this is back to being David. This is Andrew. And let's say David runs off the staggered screen. Andrew then cuts baseline. Let's say because we've ran this play 5 or 6 or for us 20-something million times, they're going to be loading up defensively on this side. They don't want anything happening over here, which then leaves Andrew absolutely wide open. And that's exactly what we were able to feast on in the second half. We would run the same play, but then we would do the skip pass over to Andrew for a legit wide open 3-point shot. Or we would feed the high post on David's side. Now, because the defense is paying attention to this side, Andrew can cut back door and we can hit him. The other option, after we call this play, is we can pass to player 4 and then he can do a dribble handoff opposite side. So he'd be dribbling with his left hand. And then this would have been a dribble handoff, short roll to the high post. 5 clears out. David attacks. Help defense comes over. Hammer pass out to Andrew for the 3-point shot. There's a lot of different reads that you can make because also, even though player 1 passes to player 2 and we set that screen, we can still have a back screen from player 5. And when this happens, we can hit player 1 with the pass for the layup. There are so many options, secondary options off of the initial set where we can now run stuff like this. But when it comes to these secondary actions, you don't just teach them right away. You set the initial action, you then show them, okay, these are the off-ball cuts. And then maybe a month later, here's another little wrinkle. You can set a screen here now. And then another month later, you can add something else to the same play. So that now your one play turns into like 4 different plays, depending on what happens on the basketball court. Now, this next play is actually a play that you can run 2 different ways. I'm going to show you both different ways. It's the exact same play, and I'm going to show you exactly why we run it. I love this play. I first learned this play when I was in grade 7. Our coach ran this play, and it worked extremely amazing. So I run it now as a 5-out, but back when I was in grade 7 and grade 8, we ran it as a box offense. So if you have a league that does not have a 3-point line, you could, and forces you to play man, you could run a box offense. Now, what we are looking at here is you've got your centers or your big guys in the high post, your guards who are fast and can shoot in the low post. 4 and 5 are going to set down screens for players 2 as well as 3. Player 3 and 2 will pop off of that, and now player 1 has the option to pass to any of these 4 players depending on the situation that is happening. So for example, if player 5 had the switch, and now he's being guarded by a shorter player, you may not want to pass the player 3 first to pass down to the post. That might take too long because with older teams, let's say player 4's man didn't switch. Well, before player 4 clears out, they may just say, okay, call switch quick. And now at least there's some kind of a big guy over here. So by passing that ball in early can get rid of that potential for an off-ball switch. But the idea is to get that mismatch either in the low post or in the perimeter. So, for example, if this is a massive mismatch, let's say this is your star player, fastest guy on the court, he can slash to the rim. Well, now you clear out into 5-out and you allow player 3 to beat his man off the dribble to get to the rim because now he has that massive speed advantage to get to the rim. And if he pulls in a help, then you just kick out for a 3-point shot. Or if there's help, let's say player 4's defender helps, player 4 could cut back door. If player 2 doesn't drop, then this can be an easy layup. If he does drop, then it's a kick out for a 3, whatever. But you could run this on a 5-out as well. That's what I do today, and it's the exact same play. What you're hoping for is the exact same thing, some kind of a mismatch. Let's say they called switch. Player 5 clears out. Player 4 posts up his man, you pass the ball into the low post, and you let your giant go to work against the other team's short player. I also like to run this play as a zoom offense. Now, zoom is not exactly a simple offense to run. Zoom is a very advanced offense, but it is actually very simple to run with players who are even 10 or 11 years old. So I'm going to show you that right now. In the zoom offense, what you can do is just have player 1 pass over to player 4. 5 sets the down screen just like before. Player 1 sets up a staggered screen. So now it's basically a double away staggered screen. Player 3 uses that. And then you've got the option for a 3-point shot, which is potentially wide open. Player 5 could be rolling off, which could be the secondary option. And player 1 can just clear out. And this can give you a couple of different options as well. Now I'm going to break down the very basic 5-out basketball offense. If you want the complete guide to the 5-out offense, make sure you go check out the link that is down below in the description, which will get you the complete guide to the 5-out offense. There's 4 basics of the 5-out. When you make that pass, player 1 can either screen for the man he passed to, he can screen away, he can also set a screen away to another man as well, and player 1 can also cut to the rim. The other option that there is drive, kick, swing, where player 1 will drive to the rim. When he drives to the rim, player 5 and 3 can lift because he drove to the right side, so the left side fills up. Now, player 1 can either score or he can kick out to any of these players. This one's going to be the hardest pass, but this will be the easiest. That's the easiest. This would be the hardest. That's the easiest. When he makes that pass out, he fills out. You can then swing the ball if he doesn't have a shot. Player 4 can then drive. Player 2 can then lift because he drove to his left side. So player 2 is lifting. Player 4 can then kick that ball out. Obviously, he could score himself. He can kick it out. This would be the hardest pass. Same as this would be the hardest pass. But if he makes that kick out, then he fills out to the opposite side. Super simple, super easy. If it comes to pass and cut, so pass and cut, very simple. These guys just fill. That's exactly what happens here. And then let's say, for example, we had a pass and screen. Player 2 can go screen. Player 4 uses that screen. Player 2 then rolls. Player 3 lifts. When he lifts, if there's no option for player 2, player 4 could kick out to player 5. Player 3 then fills the top. 2 fills the wing. 4 fills the corner. And you can continue to go. If it's pass and screen away, so for example, a pass to player 1 and player 5 screens away, player 3 fills that spot. 5 cuts. 2 fills. 4 fills. And then eventually 5 will then fill out if nobody was open for the pass. That's the cycle. So make sure to go check out the complete guide to the 5-out offense that is down in the description below. I hope that this video has helped you. If it has, hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys again in my next video.